Sergeant Arms will please secure the doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President,
All right, Senators, this morning we are very pleased to have Reverend Ayanna Franklin from the Ray of Hope Baptist Church in Baltimore, Maryland, guest of the distinguished senator from District 45. Please rise for the invocation.
Good morning. First, wanting to acknowledge the Senate President Ferguson, Senator McCray, and all assembled for this great honor. Let us pray. Almighty God, Creator, Sustainer, Comforter, and Peace, we call upon your power and presence in this space today, giving thanks for the rising of a new day, which we have been blessed to witness and operate in. Your perfect portion of provision is more than what we need and certainly more than what we deserve. We come in corporate and collective prayer to ask that the hearts and minds of the state leaders and officials gathered today are first fixed on you as they set to serve the people of this great state. We are not here today by happenstance, but surely by spiritual intervention and godly ordination. We are assembled with purpose and on purpose. The process of freedom of voting is the catalyst for which our great dedicated leaders have risen to the platform of leadership. But it is you, God, who is in ultimate control. Your word says you set all leaders in place to enact upon your will. So God, I believe even in today that you called me into this room not by coincidence or chance, but I've been called to pray because my title might be reverend or say pastor, but I believe you called me out of obscurity because I'm a woman who landed in this state 20 years ago and have been blessed by its resources. You called me, I believe, because someone in this room or someone that we serve knows what it is to suffer loss and grief and to become a young widow. You called me because there's someone in this room and someone who we serve who knows what it is to be a single mother and parent. You called me because, like me and someone in this room or someone who we serve knows what it is to be raised up in poverty, to fight hard and to work even harder. So you've called me here today, Lord, to remind and to invoke all in this room that we shall never lose sight of what truly unifies us in service. Our political parties do not divide nor join us together, but it is the collective of our individual life journeys, of trial and triumph that tether us together, that bring us under oath to protect and serve, that bind and compel us to connect the disconnected, to advocate for the disadvantaged, to seek justice where there is injustice, and courage where there's discouragement, and to be hope in the face of hopelessness, and above all else, to radiate as beacons of light in the shadowy face of darkness. Therefore, God, it is my prayer for all assembled and called into position to seek your spirit of love, to operate in love, execute in love, a perfect love that suffers long and is kind, a love that does not envy, does not parade itself, is not puffed up, a love that does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, a perfect love that thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in truth, a perfect love that bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Hear our prayer, O Lord. Amen. God loves you and so do I. And remember that everybody needs and deserves a ray of hope.
Well said. Thank you, Reverend. Thank you.
Well, watch me preach.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning I would like to introduce, and I have the proud honor to introduce, Reverend Ayanna L. Franklin, the current pastor of Ray of Hope. She's also joined by Deacon Leslie Shields, is here with her. Reverend Franklin, since her childhood, has led by Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all the ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. As a native of Philadelphia, PA, Reverend Franklin followed that path and was led to Maryland. She was educated in Philadelphia's public schools, but she also migrated here to Maryland, and she went to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Mr. President, UMES. She's got her master's degree and bachelor's degree from that location, and in 2004, she permanently relocated to Baltimore in 2006 and joined the Ray of Hope Baptist Church. Reverend Franklin possesses a true passion for education for our urban youth and has served as a dedicated public educator and administrator in the Baltimore and Washington, D.C. schools, nonprofit organizations for nearly 20 years, Mr. President. Reverend Franklin is appreciative to her late husband and pastor, Reverend Charles M. Franklin Jr., for his constant love, support, and spiritual guidance. In saying this, Mr. President, I just want to recognize that I'm honored to be able to once again introduce Reverend Franklin, but most importantly, this is her first time on our Senate floor, and just wanted to acknowledge that piece of it because she did a phenomenal job with our prayer. Thank you.
Absolutely, and without objection, certainly we will journalize the Reverend's excellent remarks this morning, an inspirational way to start the day. So thank you, Senator. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for being here with us. All right, has everyone recorded their presence? Senator from Carroll and Howard. All right, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber, everybody is here, and us having a quorum, the Senate is now in session. Any announcements? Announcements or introductions? Yes, Chair recognizes the co-chair of the Protocol Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senators, please welcome today our pages who are here in
yes,
person.
wonderful.
So if they would come on out. First of all, we have Cheyenne Toma from St. Mary's County, District 29C, Leonardtown High School. Yasmin Juhar from Montgomery County, District 14, Paint Branch High School. And Connor Clayton from Baltimore County, District 5, Loyola Blakefield. Let's give them a warm round of welcome and thank you for being with us.
Welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair, and appreciate our pages. I hope you all have a wonderful day today, some spirited debate today, and get to see some of the committees in action. So thank you so much for being here. All right. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 35th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad to have with me today in the gallery, they're shadowing me today from Harford County, Liliana Norkitis. She's a senior at Falston High School, a member of the Harford County Republican Central Committee, also a founding member of the Harford County Republican Teens, and I believe the youngest officer in the history of the Maryland Federation of Republican Women. Wow. Can we give her a nice round of applause?
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Very good.
And also today I have up there as well my Chief of Staff, Jordan Glassman, in session number 4 with me. Been doing a terrific job, and also with Chelsea Snagowski, who's back in the office, as many of our staffs have been dealing with issues over the last few years, whether it be recently with issues with the tolls and the Easy Pass, and before that, unemployment issues. Our staffs, mine included, have been doing a wonderful job serving the citizens of the state. So let's give them a round of applause.
Welcome, Jordan and Chelsea, back in the office. Our staff is what makes it work. It's been quite 2 years. Any other introductions? No? Slow day today. All right. Well, let's get to work then. Without objection, so be considered the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We have some more bills still coming. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 953, Senator McCray, Commission on African American History and Culture, alterations, Senator Verda Welcome Act, rules.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. The bills will be referred to the Standing Committee on Rules. We've got some bond initiatives. Clerk will read the bond initiative.
Senator Eckert, Agriculture Interpretive Center.
All right, the bond initiative will be referred to the Subcommittee on Capital. We've got an executive nominations report. This is report number 3. Clerk will read the report.
The Senate Executive Nominations Committee reports favorably on gubernatorial appointments and recommends that the Senate of Maryland advise and consent to these appointments. The report is on the floor system.
All right, Chair recognizes the Chair of Executive Nominations, Senator from Frederick. On the Executive Nominations report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Executive Nomination Report number 3 be special ordered till tomorrow.
Let's do Friday. We'll be here Friday. If there's no,
Tomorrow is
is today Thursday? Ay, 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 ay. All right, well, let's think about that. Why don't we do Tuesday?
Okay.
If
All right.
there's no objections to
Let's
that.
move it to Tuesday.
All right, and we'll hear it, so the Senator's moved to special order the report until Tuesday and hear it in open session without objection, so ordered. Senators, this report, the reason maybe give a couple extra days, is a very long report. There are lots of names in here, and it's a lot of the statewide names, and so just want to make sure that senators have a chance to really go through name by name, make sure there's no folks. And I think we will have at least one separation for a separate vote for the purpose of a recusal. So we'll take it up on Tuesday. Just please make sure to look through all the names, lots of boards included. All right, I think, do we have everybody here? Let's do a quorum call and do third readers.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. All right, with all members present and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. We've got one calendar of third readers. This is calendar number 11. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 27, Senator Augustine's Alzheimer's Disease and Dementia Council and Coordination of Services, Dementia Services Act of 2022.
All right, Senate Bill 27 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 27, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 131, Senator Kelly, Public Service Commission Rate Suspension Proceedings.
Senate Bill 131 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 131, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 174, Chair Budget and Taxation Committee, Mortality and Quality Review Committee, Duties, Reports, and Data, Sunset Extension.
Senate Bill 174 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 174, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 192, Chair Budget and Taxation Committee, State Procurement Minority Business Enterprise Program Reauthorization Extension.
All right, Senate Bill 192 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 192, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 196, Chair Finance Committee, Maryland Department of Health Overdose Report.
Senate Bill 196 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 196, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 242, Senator Hershey, Maryland Department of Health System for Newborn Screening Requirements.
Senate Bill 242 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 242, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 252, Senator Kelly, Commissioner of Financial Regulation, Enhanced Consumer Protections and Enforcement Tools.
All right, Senate Bill 252 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 252, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 257, Senator Bidle, Public Service Commission Reporting Requirements.
Senate Bill 257 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 257, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 278, Senator McCray, Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund Installment Payment Plans.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill. On the bill.
Just wanted to explain my vote at the appropriate time, Mr. President.
Senators, you have just one moment. Any discussion on the bill before we vote? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? And we should change their vote. Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th District for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that this is one of them profound moments where I'm just proud to be in the Senate body. This bill right here, where we have the agency MAFE, I can remember in 1997 when I bought my first car at 15 and 9 months, an 87 Buick Century was $850. Unfortunately, the insurance that I paid was $300 a month. And what happens is in 3 months, I paid more for insurance than I had even paid for the car. This is a piece of policy that was baked into statute that adversely impacted poor communities and poor black communities specifically. But more importantly, I'm glad because we're setting a course correction. While we cannot change the actions that happened before us for the last 40 years, I do think that we can impact the future Corey McCrays, the future senators in here, and create wealth or make sure that wealth is not removed from black communities. So I say thank you, but it is most deeply honored to be able to stand here with you all on this piece of policy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Well said. Any further senators wish to explain their votes? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 278, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 283, Senator Washington, Department of Human Services, Electric Universal Service Program eligibility.
Senate Bill 283 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 283, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 293, Senator Bidle, Insurance, Title Insurance Producers, Annual Review.
Senate Bill 293 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 293, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to, we have laid over calendars. Let's do layover calendar number 3. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 325, Senator Lee, Student Data Privacy Protections, Digital Tools, and Student Data Privacy Council. Question is on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, Senators, question is on the two committee amendments. Chair recognizes Minority Whip.
Mr. President, thank you for the time. My questions have been answered. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Any further discussion on the amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 325 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. We've got layover bill number 4. The clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 67, Senator Kagan, Animal Welfare, Declawing Cats, Prohibited Acts. Questions on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, Senators, this question is on the two committee amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Appears we may have an amendment. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. If the pages could join us up front and collect the amendment, we'll distribute it. Give us just a moment. All right, just a moment. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, yesterday the floor leader explained the bill, and I understand. It's a procedure that you don't want to really do to a cat. But unfortunately, sometimes it's the procedure of last resort that you have to do to keep a cat in your house. And by outlawing it completely, other than having a medical reason such as a tumor, I truly believe this bill is going to cost the lives of a lot of cats, because cat owners are going to have a choice, and they're going to get rid of them. They're going to put them down. So what I've done is I've worked very hard on an amendment, and this is a serious amendment. It does three things. First thing it does is it requires or asks the Maryland Veterinary Board to discourage this practice, to say, look, we don't want this. This should be practice of last resort. It requires continuing education on veterinarians to make sure that they know what's happening when they do this, so that maybe there's alternatives other than some of the ones that the senator pointed out. And the last thing is it says, should this be procedure of last resort? And by that meaning that you walk into a vet, you're at your wit's end. You're said, Doc, I'm done. I can't handle this cat. It's destroying my house. I have no other choice. Just put it down. That's when the vet can say, okay, it's my last choice. We're going to do this. But to do it, you got to go through a couple of hoops. The first, you got to go in, you got to meet with the vet so the vet can explain to you what's happening to this cat when you do this, how it's going to affect it. Talks about the risk and alternatives. Hey, there are things you can do to try to make this thing work. There's a cooling off period of 2 days, 48 hours before you can actually have the procedure done. After you've talked to the vet and consulted with them, you go back, and if need be, you can have the procedure done. It says, should the procedure take place, it requires, we talked about the pain. After the procedure, it calls for multimodal pain relief, and then it asks for documentation from the vet saying, hey, we did this, here's why. It's a very simple amendment. I understand this is a very gut-wrenching bill with what they do to cats, but some people don't have an option. That is why, Mr. President, I ask for favorable consideration of this amendment.
All right, the senator has moved the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, let me thank the good senator for giving me a copy of the amendment in advance and letting me review it. I do know that it is well-intentioned and is trying to balance the needs of cats and the professions, the money-making professions of the veterinarians. But there are a lot of problems with this amendment, and the committee will resist it. First off, it was drafted to the unamended bill, so it is a flawed amendment. Second off, the substance of it is really problematic, and it sets up all sorts of unnecessary hurdles. We're going to be asking vets to read the minds of cat owners. We're asking cat folks to be required to have a 48-hour waiting period and to have 2 in-person visits to a veterinarian. So if someone has to take time off from work, get childcare perhaps, maybe take a bus, bring the cat with them, have an in-person consultation, which is what is required, and then come back more than 2 days later to then see if they want to have the prescription, have the process done. It sets up a bureaucracy because the vet has to report about the meetings and take care of that. And the worst part of it is on the last page, if you're looking at this, colleagues, Roman numeral 4, utilize, and I had to look it up because I don't know what this is, multimodal perioperative pain management after the procedure is complete. So after a veterinarian mutilates the cat and performs this procedure, we are asked to allow them to, and I'm going to just read this super briefly, multimodal, so the most commonly combined medication groups include local anesthetics, opioids, NSAIDs, acetaminophen, and alpha-2 agonists. So we are telling them that the correct answer to lifelong pain is to give our cats lots of drugs, a whole mix, a whole cocktail of drugs. The best process, the best plan is the committee's thoughtful plan to ban declawing, or as I said yesterday, deknuckling, since we're cutting them off at the first bone, ban this procedure, which was approved by the EHE committee by a vote of 10-1. We resist the amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, let's see if there are senators who have not yet spoken. Chair recognizes the minority whip on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just speaking in support of the effort to amend this bill, declawing cats, we've just heard that it can be a very difficult procedure. We are talking about cats, and we're talking about things that you do sometimes to animals that I worry that if we start going down this road, we're going to have more bills about other types of things that are going on with lots of different kinds of animals. I actually think the amendment is a good idea. The maker of the amendment has a great point, because let's leave this in the hands of the professionals and let them have the say over, make sure they know it should be a last resort, but leave it in the hands of the professionals who understand how the biology of cats, dogs, and other types of domestic animals work. I think that would be a better approach here, to say we definitely don't want declawing to happen much, but it does sometimes need to take place. So I support the senator from District 7's effort to amend the bill.
Senators, we will hear from senators who have not yet spoken. Chair recognizes the senator from District 4 on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I speak in favor of the amendment. I've never had a cat. I've always been a dog person, so I don't know much about the subject, but I did look this up. Actually, I saw a newspaper headline about this, and I wanted to point out that the ASPCA, I looked on their website, it's on there right now. They say legislation to make declawing illegal, quote, while well-intentioned, can be problematic, because in rare cases, the procedure may be justifiable as a last resort to prevent euthanasia. So the ASPCA, I take as a pretty good source on animals. They say this is not a good bill. And then I look through the committee testimony. I'm actually, quite frankly, surprised that with all due respect, that the committee put this bill out on the floor. There's got to be 4 veterinarians and their association that came in and said, don't do this. We know better. Do not substitute what the General Assembly thinks for the knowledge of veterinarians who know this, who do this. And when you have all the veterinarians come in and say, look, we know how to handle this in some rare cases, like the ASPCA says we have to do this, don't put this bill on the floor. And instead of listening to the veterinarians when we're doing an animal bill, we put the bill on the floor with not a single amendment. My colleague from Harford County, without an amendment to make an exception, which the ASPCA and the veterinarians would want. I stand corrected. My colleague from Harford County, it seems to me his amendment is very common sense. This is what the veterinarians, the ASPCA, and other people that look at this would want. I know there's groups and people that call our offices on these bills. Being on JPR, we get them constantly, but we should not put aside common sense. We shouldn't put aside what a veterinarian says is the best practice. So I'm not a cat expert, but I looked up what the ASPA says, and I trust veterinarians. I trust my veterinarian with my dog. I bring all my dogs in. I trust them for the best course of care. I believe that's the best thing we should do. We should not be bringing bills to the floor that substitute what we think as legislators. I think, actually, the gentleman from Harford County is one of the few people on this floor that actually has extensive knowledge with animals and care and things like that. So I trust his judgment on this. I trust the judgments of the veterinarians, and we should adopt this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am a cat owner, and also let's not pretend that there's a universal position on this. We actually received the testimony of Dr. Nicholas Dodwin, who is a veterinarian, and he says, I quote, "Declawing is a horrendously painful and disfiguring surgery. It is positively inhuman and conducted solely for the benefit of the owner. It has no benefit for the cat, in fact, quite opposite." He further says that more humane veterinarians might prescribe some various other things. So again, I encourage the committee to reject this amendment, and to the point of our committee has within our jurisdiction to set policy around what practices there are in collaboration with another committee. And so this is a situation where we believe it's prohibited, but again, it does allow, in the circumstances where it's medically necessary, to happen. This bill does not ban the practice. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the bill, are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak? If not, Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple things that were brought up about the amendment. First of all, when it talks about the pain medication, that's for after the procedure. That is immediately following the operation and the day or 2 days it takes for the cat to recuperate. We're not talking about lifelong drug addiction for a cat. But let's be honest here. What's going to happen to a cat if it doesn't get declawed? And I'll ask any of you, if you have a cat, and let's go back to the scenario that was talked about yesterday. Grandma has a cat. We'll call him Jinxie. Jinxie the cat, it was Grandma's favorite cat. Unfortunately, Grandma passed away. So, you know, you want to do the right thing. You want to take her cat home with you and give it a good life. But you bring it home, and guess what? It is shredding your furniture, your curtains, your sofas. You went to the vet, you talked to him, hey, is there anything I can do? Well, you can put some booties on it. Well, you know what? You put the booties on it, you go to work for 8 hours, that cat's going to spend 8 hours getting those boots off. Once they're off, it's back at it. Shredder's coming back out. You know, we talked about behavioral therapy. People don't have time for that. You know, the senator talked about going to the vet, getting on the bus, and the time. Most people out there right now, they are busy. They're getting the kids up in the morning, getting them out the door to the school bus, going to work, coming home from work. They have enough time to open the can, drop some cat food in the bowl before they take kids to Little League. They don't have time to take a cat to therapy, behavioral therapy, to try to get it to stop scratching. And I'm being serious about this. This bill is going to cause the death of a lot of cats, because what's your option? You've done everything you can. This cat is still destroying your furniture. Dad's upset, saying, get rid of it. I want it out of the house. Kids are crying because Jinxie's going to die. So what do people do? They have 4 choices. 1, they make it an outside cat. If you live in a rural area, yeah, you can do that. You can open the door and let it out and in. But if you live in a condo or an apartment, you can't do that, so you're stuck. Your other option is you take it to a shelter. Most shelters, that cat has a week to 10 days for somebody to adopt it. If not, it's going to be put down. Third option, and this is what I see all the time. People take a ride in the country. They drive out the country, they see a nice, beautiful farm, white picket fence, horses out there, and they say, you know what, Jinxie's going to love it here. They open the door and they let it out. And this is the absolute truth, Mr. President. This morning at 5:50 when I walked out, in our barn, we have 3 cats that we have brought home that are ours. There is a 4th cat. It's a big gray furry thing. It's petrified of people. It was dropped off. We can't touch it. We can't get near it because we're trying to catch it to get it spayed or neutered. But that's what happens. People drop these things off. They go to farms. Unfortunately, dogs kill them. Many times you drive down the road, you see a dead cat in the road. Chances are that was an abandoned cat. It's somebody, they're at their wits' end. The 4th and final option people have is to put it down. They're walking into the vet. They're saying, Doc, I can't do anything else. Put it down. We've talked about medical procedures. Yes, if it has a medical procedure, you can do it. But that does not allow for this last resort. That's all I'm trying to say is absolute last resort. So with that, Mr. President, I just ask for a favorable consideration of this amendment.
All right, Chair recognizes the floor leader on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to correct the record on some of the things that have been said. First off, I want to apologize. Legal counsel advised me that the amendment was not drafted correctly. It is, so I apologize for that. Second, it was said that there's no amendments. There are amendments that give a little more flexibility to the veterinary board on penalties, on hearings, and all that. So we softened that a little bit. And as the good senator from District 43 said, it is not a total ban. If the cat has a tumor or something in its paw, of course that can be addressed. This procedure is not done on dogs or any other animal. We mutilate our cats in a terrible way. And yes, if you give them a whole cocktail of drugs right after the procedure, that's perfectly fine. That does not address their lifelong challenges of not being able to comfortably use a litter box, not being able to defend itself, not being able to have any opportunity other than biting, which is much more toxic for people who are immunocompromised. And that's when people come in for infections into a hospital from biting, not from scratches. The veterinarians, yes, there are veterinarians who are opposed to this bill, who do this practice, but we also had a lot of vets who will not practice this procedure because they think it's inhumane. On the ASPCA's website, at the top of their website, and I understand that the senator from District 4 has found something else, but this says The ASPCA is strongly opposed to declawing cats for the convenience of their owners or to prevent damage to household property. The only circumstances in which the procedure should be considered are those in which all behavioral and environmental alternatives have been fully explored, have proven to be ineffective, and the cat is at grave risk of euthanasia. The senator from District 7 talked about booties and the cat trying to take off the booties. They're not booties. They are nail caps. And you can't take off, people can't even take off a nail cap. It's affixed to the nail. And for those who understand the fake manicures that women often try and stuff, they are super glued onto your base of your nail. Think of it as that way. You can't just rip that off, and certainly a cat would not be able to do that. And the last thing is the concept of putting down a cat because they're not declawed. It's actually exactly the opposite. Shelters are filled with cats that have been declawed, and because of the behavioral changes, because instead of scratching on, Jinxie scratching on grandma's sofa, she's instead using the sofa as a litter box, and the cat mom and dad just won't tolerate that. So for all of these reasons and many more, let's have Maryland join 40 other countries and many major cities and elsewhere in banning this cruel and inhumane process. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Chair recognizes let's go to the senator from 37th District who has not yet spoken on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And ladies and gentlemen, I am very concerned about this. I mean, I'm concerned about cats and pets, but I've just had a text from my wonderful vet in East Newmarket who shadowed with me here a couple of years ago. And let me just share with you her comments. This is from Dr. Flaggs. She supports keeping this legal in Maryland. Making something completely illegal is inappropriate, as sometimes it's necessary due to severe medical conditions. I'm afraid that if we make it illegal, people will go to unsafe practices to make it happen. She said declawing rates have been going way down, and with the proper drugs and pain management, it should always be a viable option. I am just sharing that with you because I have serious concerns. If we start legislating and mandating what procedures within a defined body of specialties, such as veterinary and veterinary practices, if we start interfering with that, with the vet's practice, are we starting down a slippery slope that may have other implications further down the road? I think this is a very significant amendment, and I would really urge the committee to work out something so that we can resolve this issue, keep it as a last resort, but do not ban it and then have all the associated penalties that go with it. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 19 on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just one quick response to that commentary we just heard. This is not unprecedented. Many years ago, this same body passed a law to prohibit the devocalization of dogs or cats in the state. And that's because it too was a barbaric practice that could jeopardize the health of the dogs. So, we've been down this path. We have also put in to law very strict requirements of our veterinarians with regard to cosmetic surgery, tail docking, ear cropping. So it's not unprecedented. We have done this before. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any senators who have not yet spoken? If not, Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder, just to get a little bit of clarity, if the floor leader would yield for a question.
Will the floor leader yield?
Follow-up.
So, Senator may proceed.
So you talked earlier, you read the ASPCA statement, and we've heard from the senator from District 4. It seems that the statement that you read, that the floor leader read, says that they still think it should be allowed as a last resort. So it's fair to say their position is we should not ban declawing, but this bill, without the amendment, this bill does ban declawing, correct?
Not correct.
It bans it in case there is a medical issue.
It has an exception, and so that's not a complete ban. It mostly bans. It's not for convenience. It's not because of destruction of furniture or, oops, she scratched my arm. It's not the place, and we talked about some of the alternatives. Behavior modification, trimming regularly, and nail caps are three of the easiest options.
Yeah, what if someone's concerned that the cat might scratch a family member?
They might not have wanted to adopt a cat.
Okay, well, that's an interesting point of view. I mean, there's a lot of things we do in law that you could answer, well, the person just shouldn't have done that. I mean, I don't know about that. Mr. President, one more question if I could ask. So I was looking at the hearing testimony. So you've talked about veterinarians, other folks have talked about veterinarians. What was the position of the Veterinarians Association?
So the Veterinarians Trade Association, which represents profit-making doctors, came in against the bill, but we had a number of veterinarians who came in support who refused to perform this inhumane procedure.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. President, just in speaking briefly, and I would like a roll call on this amendment, Mr. President, just speaking briefly, it's fair to say that the most charitable way to define how veterinarians feel is that it's mixed. But the State Association of Veterinarians opposes this bill precisely because it needs to be an option in certain cases. And I echo what my colleagues have said on the floor here. I trust veterinarians to make the right decision. My understanding from talking to veterinarians is that it's a pretty uncommon practice now. Anyway, it's not nearly as common as it was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago because of the concerns about the humaneness of it, but it needs to be available in the law. And the amendment here would preserve the ability for it to be used as a last resort, but would also challenge the trade associations, as my colleague mentioned, and others to really make sure it's a last resort. So I think it's a great amendment, and I would ask for a roll call vote on it, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. We will do so. We still have a couple more. Chair recognizes the senator from District 29 on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. First thing, I just wanted to set the record straight just for a minute. Some of the things that the senator from District 17 talked about, and she said that claws are not removed on dogs. I've trained and bred dogs for years. Dew claws are routinely removed on sporting dogs and hunting dogs, and the reason is because if those dogs are in the wild and they're hunting, they run into ice, so they have a dew claw. As an adult, it causes significant damage to them. It's done, if they're in the wild, running along, hunting, they run into a patch of ice, it will literally rip their legs clean up to their knees. So it's routinely done for dogs. The second thing that happens, and many of you have not had the pleasure or opportunity to be to our farms, but some of our farms are at the end of roads, and there's a couple things that get dropped off there pretty routinely. People drop off old furniture, they drop off washers, they drop off dryers, right? And they also drop off their pets. You have no idea the number of dogs and cats that rural people get when people take a drive in the country. That is just what happens. Now, there's one thing that's happened in the near recent past that is really thriving on that. That's coyotes, right? The coyotes' number one food right now is feral cats. That's a result of what is happening. And that is a terrible death for any animal. I trust my veterinarians. I talked to them about this issue. Talk to them about this amendment. I'll be supporting this amendment.
All right, thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on the amendment? Senators request a roll call vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 29 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 67 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. It was good debate, interesting issue. All right, we've got a special order. Clerk will read the bill. This is number 14.
Senate Bill 15, Senator Jackson, Election Law, Campaign Finance Enforcement. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
All right, question is on the adoption of the favorable report. Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District on the report.
Mr. President, I had asked this to be special ordered for purpose of an amendment. I do have that amendment now. I don't know if you want to proceed with the report and then introduce the amendment. What's the...
Yes, right. Let's just see, are there any further discussion on the report? Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from District 4 on the report.
Yeah, I also have an amendment, but I don't know if it's necessary to offer yet, unless I ask a question. So, if the floor leader would yield, I have a question on the bill.
Appears so. Senator may proceed.
I was looking at this bill, and I think I was familiar with it because I actually think most of it was in front of Judicial Proceedings last year, and we did not move forward with it. But one of the concerns I have sometimes with bills like this is it takes the penalty from $1,000 right now to $25,000, and I always like to ask when there's a bill that changes a penalty, especially 25-fold, how many people are currently have been cited under the law at $1,000? What is the caseload that we're talking about?
So I want to be clear that that part of the legislation only deals with businesses, and these are businesses that have contracts with the state government of over $200,000.
I understand that. Yeah, it's have contracts and or $500 in lobbying, and it takes them both from $1,000 to $25,000. And let's just be honest, we've had this debate actually before on the floor on similar bills. $500, this could be association or that you're joined with down here, or maybe you've got one contract. But the size is irrelevant. My question was, under the current $1,000 penalty, how many people have currently been cited under that?
I don't have that exact number offhand. We can get that for you, but I want to be clear, this is only for businesses that have government contracts over $200,000, and this is actually to allow that there be civil penalties against them, because there's an incongruity in the current statute that allows criminal penalties to be brought against businesses that have contracts of over $200,000 with the state. But there's no provision in current statute in Title 14 for civil penalties. And what the state prosecutor's office, and they had requested this, are asking for is the ability to actually issue civil citations, pursue them civilly, so that they don't have to proceed all the way to the criminal citation piece if they don't need to. They already have the criminal tools, they don't have the civil tools under Title 14. And the concern here is that these are businesses that oftentimes already have large contracts with state government, that these are multi-million-dollar contracts. And our concern here is that for these businesses that have these large contracts already with the state, that $1,000 is almost meaningless to them, that it's almost the cost of doing business when you have a $10 million contract with the state. And oftentimes that means that they will just flaunt these, the current statute and flaunt these laws, and the state prosecutor doesn't have the civil tools to go after them until it gets to the degree that they have to apply criminal penalties. And criminal is much harder because it has to show that they have intent, willful intent to, intercede with the law. So in this instance, this gives them another tool to be able to go after the bad apples and the bad actors who view this oftentimes as just another cost of doing business because they already have large contracts with the state.
If I could follow up, you mentioned multi-million, but that is in fact not the threshold. The threshold is $200,000 contract or $500 in lobbying, correct?
Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah, you mentioned multi-million to give everyone the impression we're talking about large corporations, which will know how to do this. But in fact, the legislation threshold is $200,000 contract or $500 in lobbying, correct?
That's the current threshold, but oftentimes these contracts can range into the
I understand that. I understand they could be $1 billion, but the threshold in the law is $200,000. And you said the problem was knowing and willfully is hard to enforce. Doesn't this civil penalty require knowing and willfully?
I think in the it's only the criminal code that you require the knowing and willfully. And so it's a much higher threshold.
Oh, I'm looking
meet.
at I looked at right in front of where it says $1,000, 25,000, it says knowing and willfully, right on there.
It's the same as in criminal code.
Yes, it's the same standard. So the argument that it's harder to prosecute because knowing and willful, it says knowing willful for this. So that, with all due respect, is not an issue. I'm going to ask, we'll go to second reading. I have an amendment. I'm going to put the amendment on, ask the bill be laid over at that point, because I think it's important that if we're going to raise penalties, just quite frankly as a body, and it might not sound like a big deal, but if your company has one contract for $200,000, say that's your whole business, and all of a sudden you get 4 violations at $100,000, that's a big deal. So before somebody comes in and asks us to increase the penalty, if the number is what it has been in past years where it's less than a handful, and this body took this exact $25,000 and amended it down in the past, and then another committee killed it last year, so this is the 3rd round of this recycled bill. So I'm going to ask that that's all I have to say on the report, and then I'll offer my amendment at the appropriate time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the report, Chair recognizes the floor leader on the report. Nope. All right, let's take the report. Is there any further discussion on the report? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Senator from District 34, or Senator from District
amendment.
Has an amendment. Senator Page will please collect the senator's amendment. Give us just a moment. Well, I guess Senator, do you want to move to lay it over, or do you want to?
Lay it over with the amendment. That's fine. We can go ahead and just lay it over with the amendment and take them both up at the same time.
All right, Senators move.
I'm sorry.
No, my.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and do the layover now and pick this up at the same time.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Senators move. Well, let's wait till it's in. Okay. Senators move to lay over the amendment. The motion is in order. We'll lay the bill and the amendment over to the appropriate time tomorrow and take it up, and we'll explain the amendment then. All right. We got one more. We got the special order number 15. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 30, Senator Carter, Courts, Jury Service Disqualification. Question is on the adoption of the amendment offered from the floor by Senator Reedy.
Okay, Senator's question is on the amendment. Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And in consultation with the committee, I'd like to withdraw this amendment, and I have another substitute amendment.
All right, Senators move to withdraw the amendment. Without objection, so ordered. Senator now has a different amendment. Pages will collect the new amendment.
Yes, I do. One of our pages is from my district today, so I thought I'd keep him busy.
Keeping him busy. Keeping him busy.
There we go.
It's good experience. Give us just one moment, though.
Yeah, sure thing.
Sure thing. 1 sec.
You don't have to hand me one. I have it.
All right, Senator, may I explain the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment that I offered yesterday, we struck one thing out of that amendment. So this amendment will put an exception on this bill that if you have a felony conviction for witness intimidation, a crime involving or relating to witness intimidation or jury intimidation, that you would not be able to be in a jury pool. We had perjury on there. This doesn't have it on there. So this is just witness intimidation and jury intimidation, and hopefully have a favorable response from the committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Senator has moved the amendment. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate the senator for working with us. Look, these are 2 very, very serious offenses that are germane to the underlying conduct at hand, so we take this as a friendly amendment.
All right. Any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. Chair recognizes on the amendment.
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 44 on the amendment.
Thank you very much. I rise in opposition to this amendment, and while I do so, I'd like to point the body to a law review article that was written by Alexis Hogue in 2020. In this law review article entitled "An Unbroken Thread: African American Exclusion from Jury Service, Past and Present," she writes, and I'm quoting, Given the disproportionality high rate of felony convictions among African Americans and the policies that disenfranchise those with convictions, black people continue to be regularly unrepresented in jury pools. Court officials still utilize many of the same race-neutral policies and practices that officials used to exclude black jurors in the 19th and early 20th centuries with the same results. For African Americans, the rate of disenfranchisement from a criminal conviction is 4 times greater than that of non-African Americans, with 1 in 13 African Americans of voting age disenfranchised. Although some jurisdictions allow for voter restoration for individuals with felony convictions, the process is often expensive and arduous. Moreover, even if individuals with criminal convictions make it into the jury pool, prosecuting attorneys often remove them, either via the peremptory strike or for cause, due to their contact with the criminal legal system. There is an accepted assumption that contact with the criminal legal system results in juror bias for the defendant. Such an assumption exacerbates jury underrepresentation. And that's what this amendment does. It makes an assumption. And I'm just curious, why are we assuming that people cannot be fair or impartial or not even be given that opportunity to sit on a jury because of something that they've done in the past that, to my knowledge, based on this bill, they've already paid their debt to society? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, Chair recognizes the Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. And everything that the senator said is absolutely true. And every crime on the books will be excluded except for the crime explicitly of intimidating a jury or witness intimidation, which is germane to the actual operation and sanctity of our judicial system. Black and brown people are disproportionately affected by this practice. I'd ask you all to support this amendment. Thank you very much.
All right. On the amendment, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 30 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right. Senators, the desk is clear. Desk is clear. Desk is clear. A lot of work today. Let's see. Big thanks to the Judicial Proceedings Committee. Had a long night last night. Lots of bills all over. So EE had it yesterday, or 2 days ago. JPR had it yesterday. We got a lot of people showing up. So let's do committee announcements. Chair recognizes the Chair of Finance.
At 1 p.m. we will have bill hearings. We have 8 today. And listen up, committee. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., the chair of EE will be there to give us a briefing on an issue of significant importance to us, given some overlapping concerns. Climate Solutions Now Act of 2022, Senate Bill 528. So please be there on time at 10 a.m. in the morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Chair recognizes the Chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. EHE will meet at 1 p.m. We have, I think, 6 or 8 bills. That'll be followed by a walkthrough with committee counsel of that very same bill, Senate Bill 528, Climate Solutions Bill. Will go page by page, so it'll help you, inform you for possible amendments when we take it up for a voting session next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, Chair recognizes the Chair of Budget and Taxation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today at 1 o'clock, all 3 subcommittees will be meeting, and tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. we'll have a voting session.
All right, thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Chair of Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. Judicial Proceedings will meet at 1 p.m. for bill hearings.
All right, thank you, Senator. Any other select or standing committees? Select committees? Delegations? Delegations? Chair recognizes the Chair of the Baltimore City Delegation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to let my colleagues from the Baltimore City Delegation, look like a lot of committees going to be meeting early tomorrow. We're going to move our meeting up from 9 a.m. to 8:30 a.m.
Ooh. Ouch. All right, Chair recognizes Majority Leader, Senator from Montgomery County? Or?
Either. Chair of the reapportionment
committee.
Yes.
That committee will be meeting today at 11:30 a.m. In the Amos room.
In the Amos room. The redistricting and reapportionment at 11:30 in the Amos room. Chair recognizes the chair of the Anne Arundel delegation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anne Arundel County Senators will be meeting at 8 a.m. via Zoom. So we have Baltimore City beat by 30 minutes. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from the 30th District.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senators, please, if we could give Senator attention.
My constituent, a lifetime resident of Snow Hill, Maryland, Fannie Mae Burkhead, is being laid to rest this afternoon. She lived a remarkable life of service, a heart of service backed by dedicated action. And she truly has made a lasting impact on our shore and the state of Maryland. She was the first African American elected to countywide office in Worcester County. She also was the first African American to drive the boardwalk train. She always led with integrity and compassion, and she had a really special gift of inspiring young people. And I saw her in action at events where we would be ringing the Salvation Army bells. And what was exciting about that is her daughter, Maryland National Guard General Janine Burkhead, many of you know, would be there, and you'd see 3 generations of Burkheads out there doing community service together. And we had fun at those events. Her steady presence and grace will be missed. And her legacy will live on, not only in Worcester County, not only on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, but in the entire state of Maryland. So with respect, I ask that we adjourn in the honor of Fannie Mae Burkhead. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing that to our attention. And without objection, we will certainly adjourn in her honor. Major Burkhead has been just remarkable in this last 2 years, led up the vaccine work group, and certainly learned it all from her mom. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Awkward transition here, so we'll just let it be. We have an update in the office buildings around our waste stream. So we, after a request from several members and staff who had been doing their own composting and bringing things in, we have started a pilot program. There are now 9 new bins throughout the James and Miller buildings for composting. This is with a local Annapolis company who actually does some pretty neat things, but does workforce development with members of the community. It's for food waste, non-laminated paper, and compostable products. So a memo will come out, senators, just so you know, and members. They're available. We'll see how it works. It's a pilot program, and we will see how it goes. So sorry for that awkward transition, but it is what it is. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you. If I could just have a point of personal privilege for some important information.
Senator may proceed.
Briefly. I wanted to share with you, when the State Board of Education had mask mandates, they put some off-ramps and how schools could come out. And I'm pleased to announce last night the Anne Arundel County School Board unanimously, bipartisanly, stopped the mask mandates effective tomorrow. Of course, they have the options to wear a mask, but that follows the governor's announcement starting next Tuesday. Statewide, the mask mandates are going to be gone. And then also in Anne Arundel County, the Democrat county executive announced that Anne Arundel County will be lifting that mask mandate. And that brings me to their point that here in these few buildings in Anne Arundel County, we still have a mask mandate. Therefore, our entire caucus signed a letter, and we're going to be presenting it to leadership, asking that we remove the mask mandate here in these buildings that the Senate controls. Obviously, the House of Delegates can do what they want. They've been doing what they want, but as far as the Senate goes. And I applaud the Anne Arundel County School Board. They met the metrics. And they took the action. I think it was like 80% vaccination rate. Here in the Senate, we have a much higher vaccination rate. And we're not asking that people saying they prohibit them from wearing masks, but that they'll mandate that everybody else has to. And quite frankly, we still have testing every week, and we're doing common sense health protocols. And it's been 2 long years. And we just started in person this week. And I can tell you, I know in our committee on Tuesday, we were here for about 8 hours. And these N95 little puppies, they stick to your face, and after 8 hours, it's tough. And it's distracting to listening to the people coming in and testifying. And then yesterday, we received a letter from leadership basically doubling down on mandating masks. And we would respectfully ask that you reconsider that. And let's join the Republican governor, the Democrat county executive, bipartisan county school board here in Anne Arundel County, and stop the mask mandates here in the Senate. And we agree with leadership that we need to live with COVID, but we can't keep moving the goalpost. So we as Republicans respectfully and urgently ask to stop the mask mandates here in the Senate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. And look, this is a question that folks are asking across the state. There's no doubt. And certainly what happened in Anne Arundel County, it was great news. 80% of vaccinations. I mean, I think so. Just for perspective, and to give everybody sort of a sense of kind of the thinking of where things are. Back in October, there were 300 people hospitalized. That's October of 2020. In June of 2021, there were 110 people hospitalized. Today in Maryland, we have 677 hospitalized. It is no doubt going down. It's dropping dramatically, but it is double where we were back in October. Every metric is in the right direction. Let me be very clear. There is nothing more that I would like to do than to not wear masks anymore. It would be the greatest thing to be able to be totally done. The challenge that we have is that we have a number of folks with young kids that are very, very young kids, infants that don't have the ability to get vaccinated. In fact, we might soon, hopefully the senator who's on the phone isn't getting a call that the other person is waiting for a newborn baby to come, which would be a valid excuse, although you should be running out of the building if... but in all seriousness, no, we do have some we have a lot of young kids. We have folks with their own health challenges. And then I'd say the other issue that is relevant is that we have reopened in person, and we want people to feel comfortable coming. I am certainly more than willing to reevaluate as soon as we can when we can restore confidence in people that there is that they can participate. And I think it's a gradual getting back into living life with this virus. Final point is that the one difference here than I think in other places and in schools is that we have people coming from across the state. And so it is this very unique place where throughout the state people come, and if we did have an outbreak, it would shut down our work. So that is the rationale. I'm sympathetic to the desire. I think wearing a mask is very, very, very unpleasant. The moment it felt right to do so, would love to move forward with that. But just at this point in time, I don't feel that we're there yet. So understand the sentiments deeply. And we will certainly reevaluate as things continue to improve, and certainly understand the minority leader's perspective and the caucus perspective. We're just trying to work through this thing. It's all brand new for everybody, and we'll keep in communication and figure out our way through it. So, all right, any further announcements? If not, let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chairman of quorum being present, Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Friday, February 18th at 11 a.m. in honor of Fannie Mae Burkhead.
Without objection, so ordered. Stay safe, everyone. Have a great day.